Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. We've got a great show for you guys tonight. Got some Deandre Ayton news that, quite frankly, caught me off guard a little bit regarding the restricted free agents signing with the Indiana Pacers, and then the Phoenix Suns matched the deal. So Deandre Ayton is coming back to Phoenix in what is a very dicey situation between he and the head coach, Monty Williams. I'll get to that, as well as could this be Tom Brady's final year? He made some comments that said yes, and he made some comments that said no in an interview with Variety. I'll get to that, as well as some comments made by Goran Dragic about Kevin Durant that, quite honestly, I completely back and I get, and I frankly would go so far as to say I agree with. Sean Payton, is he going to Dallas? I don't think so, but there was a report saying that it's a possibility, and also why Kyrie Irving's stock is plummeting, and a trade that the Lakers could actually make to land Kyrie. But first, let's talk about Deandre Ayton. In one of the more curious moments of NBA free agency, obviously, we know all the big names have pretty much come off the market. Again, the biggest story, of course, is Kevin Durant. The second biggest story is Kyrie Irving. The third biggest story really is Russell Westbrook. Like, where did those three end up? And is there a trade that involves, the Nets and the Lakers hand in hand? But the Phoenix Suns, we know they won 64 games last year. That's a franchise record. They were the odds-on favorite to get to the finals in 2022, certainly after getting to the finals a season ago and losing in 6 games to the Milwaukee Bucks. Come into this year, I was high on Phoenix in terms of being the 1 seed. They were that. And even more than that, I think I had them winning 60. Sue me, they won 64. But Chris Paul was magnificent in the games he did play in the regular season. Devin Booker was, in my view, he would have been my 5th place for MVP. I thought he had an outstanding regular season. Deandre Ayton played fairly well, and their bench was good. And Monty Williams once again did a phenomenal job, and he did so good he won Coach of the Year. And of course, it came to a screeching halt in Game 7 of the second round against Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks, and the Suns did not even reach the Western Conference Finals as a 64-win team. And so in the past 2 months since, it's been a lot of questions. Where does this team go from here? Do they trade Chris Paul? There's, the whole Kevin Durant situation. He's got the Suns on his wish list. Do they trade Paul for KD? Do they trade Devin Booker for KD? Where does Deandre Ayton factor into all this? Well, we got some answers yesterday, although it is a little confusing in my view. So the Indiana Pacers offered Deandre Ayton a 4-year, $133 million contract. Now, because Deandre Ayton is a restricted free agent, the Suns, control his rights. If they match the deal, he stays in Phoenix, even if Deandre Ayton, agrees to the deal with Indiana. Well, he did agree to the deal with Indiana, and curiously, at the last second, the Suns matched the offer. So Deandre Ayton is going to return to Phoenix. It's on a 4-year, $133 million deal. So he's going to be back in Phoenix for at least 1 year. We're going to find out over the next year what this means for the Phoenix Suns in terms of what their goal is through this. Because here's what we do know about the deal. There's 2 things. Number 1, Deandre Ayton cannot be traded this year. He can't. He just signed. He's a restricted free agent who just had his contract matched by the team that he was originally with. So he's going to be in Phoenix for at least 1 more year before they can trade him. So they can't trade Deandre Ayton and a bunch of assets for Kevin Durant. So that's off the table. Maybe Phoenix can still pull off a trade for KD, but it would definitely have to involve probably Devin Booker, and I'm thinking maybe a 3-team trade. Maybe add like Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, somebody like a Bismack Biyombo or JaVale McGee or any other big man they have, something like that, to put KD with Chris Paul and Deandre Ayton. And the second thing that I thought about that was really interesting, and Spock Track on Twitter, I thought did a really good job of pointing this out. I'll put up the tweet. I'll read it for the podcast audience. Spock Track last night said, quote, "Did the Suns get pushed around by letting the Pacers offer sheet Deandre Ayton, or was this the plan all along? Phoenix was able to offer Ayton a max 5 years, $179 million, or 4 years, $138 million. The matched contract comes in at 4 years, $132 million. So through this, you could say, good move by Phoenix, because they possibly saved themselves $47 million by just letting somebody else offer the contract to Ayton and they match it. That's possible because obviously, the team that the free agent just last played for can offer them the biggest deal if they are eligible for a max contract. So, but that's how it transpired. So, was that the Suns' plan all along? Very possibly. Very possibly. But something that, in terms of the basketball context of it, in terms of the human aspect of it, this doesn't make a ton of sense. Yes, does Deandre Ayton, is he a better option than a JaVale McGee or a Bismack Biyombo? Of course. And those guys are perfectly serviceable centers, especially on the defensive end of the floor, good in the pick and roll. They fit well with Phoenix, and they both had really good seasons for them last year. But Deandre Ayton is a better basketball player. There's a reason he was the number 1 overall pick in 2018. But in terms of the chemistry with the team, in terms of the relationship with the head coach more specifically, that's why it kind of had me scratching my head a little bit. I can't help but remember Game 7 again. The Suns, folks, the Suns don't get beat by Dallas. The game was over after the first quarter and a half. It was over after the first quarter and a half. Okay, Chris Paul was awful. Booker looked like the moment was too big for him. Deandre Ayton was terrible. Nobody wearing a Phoenix Suns uniform played even remotely well. Whereas everybody wearing a Mavericks uniform, of course, starting with their superstar Luka Doncic, played great. Jason Kidd completely outcoached Monty Williams in that game. But a lot of the blowout had to do with the spat in that game. And folks, we know this wasn't just a problem during this game specifically. This is something that had been bubbling over for a while now between Monty Williams, the head coach, and Deandre Ayton, the team's center. Just remember, during Game 7, Monty Williams, again, this is from people who are at the game, people sitting courtside, reporters. So this is allegedly. Williams allegedly asked Ayton if he wanted to play and then immediately yanked him out of the game. An apparent witness tweeted after the game was over. Okay? And a lot of sort of speculation is because Phoenix didn't offer him a contract in 2021 because he only had 1 year left in his deal. He wants to get his money. I get it. And so there's a frustration between he and the organization, and especially Ayton and the head coach. And so Monty Williams is basically saying, oh, because you didn't get your money, because things are going really bad for us in the basketball court, you're basically quitting on us. Your effort level has pretty much tanked. Remember also, according to this reporter in Phoenix, Deandre Ayton had words for Monty on that substitution. Monty walked towards him and asked, what did you say? When two coaches stepped in between them. So clearly some bad blood between the head coach and I think without question the third best player on a team that won 64 games. So that's the only question I have, is whether or not that this is going to work even for this year. Because Phoenix feels like they're in a weird situation where, are they going to win 50-plus games next year if they stay healthy? Yes, they are. But do we look at them in the West as the primary threat to the defending champion, my Golden State Warriors? No, I don't think any of us do. Me personally, I think it's the Clippers. Me personally, I'd put Denver right after the Clippers if you get Jamal Murray back. The addition, by the way, sneaky good addition by the Denver Nuggets getting Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, KCP, who was a huge part of the Lakers winning in 2020. Excellent, 3-and-D guy, really good fit for him. Like it a lot. Good replacement and an upgrade, in my view, over Will Barton. Okay, the question for the Nuggets is Michael Porter Jr. healthy? Does his back hold up? I have serious doubts about that because he's had back problems since he played at Missouri briefly in college. But outside of that, I like Denver a lot this coming season. Okay, Memphis, is it going anywhere? You guys know I was maybe a little hard on John Moran on Monday, but Memphis is still going to be a tough out in the playoffs. Now, is Phoenix better than Memphis? Possibly. They're on the same level. I mean, a lot of people thought we'd get a Phoenix Western Conference Finals, but Dallas, made sure Phoenix didn't sniff the Western Conference Finals in that Game 7, and my Golden State Warriors pretty much dispatched the Grizzlies in 6 games. But Phoenix is in a weird position where talented young players, good veterans, star veteran point guard Chris Paul, I think a still ascending best player on the team, Devin Booker, and then a disgruntled center. Because he has his money now, but he's probably not where if you ask Deandre Ayton, you want to put him on a lie detector test, where would he rather play, Indiana or Phoenix? He'd say Indiana. Now, of course, the Pacers have literally no chance of competing whatsoever in the Eastern Conference. The Suns, of course, do have at least a shot in the West. But team chemistry means a lot. Relationship between player and head coach matters a lot. And I got to be honest, I side with Monty Williams on this. Because name the player that has had like a real issue with Monty Williams. Listen, Monty's kind of old school, and he played in the NBA not too long ago, but he's the type of guy, he's going to coach you hard. Was Deandre Ayton ready for that? Chris Paul was. I mean, heck, Chris Paul is almost like the Monty Williams on the floor. I would argue Chris Paul is harder on players than Monty Williams is. Devin Booker, he loves Monty, right? There's no beef between those two. Most players in Phoenix, I haven't heard a single player in Phoenix outside of Deandre Ayton have any issue with Coach Williams. Back when he was in New Orleans with the New Orleans Hornets with Chris Paul, and then, of course, when the Pelicans came into the fray with Anthony Davis, didn't seem to have any issues. I mean, AD had one of the best seasons of his career under Monty Williams, so he gets the best out of guys. He's gotten the best out of Deandre Ayton, but I don't know. Did this all stem from his the contractual impasse with he and the Suns organization, and he just took it out on Monty? Who knows? I think Monty I think he took it out in the organization in his effort level, which I think is never okay. Quitting on the team, pouting, and that's what I think got Monty upset, got the coach upset. So, I'm Team Monty on this one, and I'm almost always, pro player in situations where there's, money involved, where there's a new contract, but you can't quit on the team. By the way, it actually hurts your value. If you're mad at a team doesn't want to pay you, okay, but you can go elsewhere and still get paid. But you do hurt your value if the effort isn't there. So this is a really, really curious move by the Phoenix Suns. I frankly didn't get it. Are they saving him to trade him next year? Maybe, but I don't know. This doesn't feel like a team that you just throw away a year. I mean, Chris Paul's not getting any younger. Devin Booker, you want to capitalize on the best years of his career. I don't know. I mean, do they think they can't compete with Golden State? I don't think that's the issue. Who knows? But I'll tell you this. The Western Conference is no joke next year, folks. Golden State is going to be better next year, adding KD or no KD, considering the young players that have developed very quickly over there. Memphis, obviously, is a year older now. Those kids have playoff experience under their belt, and they'll come back ready. Ja Morant will be even better. You add, again, Denver. I'm telling y'all, don't sleep on Denver next year. I kind of like the Nuggets this year. And the Clippers, man. Man, to those out there who, especially in La La Land, in Southern California, who do not like the Clippers, thank your lucky stars that you have a team in your state, just north of where you live, that is the greatest dynasty since the Chicago Bulls of the 90s. Because if it weren't for that, the Clippers go into the finals if the Warriors aren't healthy next season. Staying in the NBA, let's go to the East Coast. Kevin Durant. I'm not here to give you any updates on the situation in regards to where he gets traded, where he wants to go. I mean, I read the report from Chris Broussard yesterday that said he would like to go to Golden State. I said on this show, KD himself said in a podcast he would be very open to going back to Golden State. But then the report a few weeks ago said he'd like to go to either Phoenix or to Miami. I don't know. I don't know. Listen, KD is one of the most unpredictable individuals out there. He's not as unpredictable as Kyrie, although I would almost argue he's more unpredictable than Kyrie because Kyrie is unpredictably predictable, or predictably unpredictable. This is what I meant to say, but we don't know. But Goran Dragic, veteran guard in the NBA, good player. He said, quotes, he was talking about, he's talking to a Slovenian newspaper, and Goran Dragic played for the Nets last season. He was picked up off the buyout market, and he is just signed with the Chicago Bulls. Good pickup for Chicago. Again, good veteran player, good scorer, good addition. And they were asking about playing with the Nets last year. And he said, quote, I played with some stars like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and I have to admit that it was quite difficult because the focus was not on the team, but more the individual performances of the individual players, end quote. Okay, well, that's not like a surprising quote or anything, but what I'm taking from that is that Goran Dragic, and this isn't just Joe Blow. I mean, he's played with two well-run franchises at some point in his career. He played with Steve Nash in Phoenix with, the Mike D'Antoni 7 seconds or less offense with Steve Nash and Stoudemire and that group who made the Western Conference Finals multiple times. So good culture there. Remember, who was the general manager of that team? It was none other than Steve Kerr. He played quite a while, played quite a few years with the Miami Heat, got to an NBA Finals in 2020 with the Miami Heat. I mean, they literally have a name for the culture, Miami Heat culture. It's a thing. Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler now is kind of into that mix. So he knows a good culture when he sees one. He's been there, he's done that. And so he knows Brooklyn is not a good culture. Certainly was not well coached by Steve Nash. But I think his comments have a lot of merit because, again, like I said, he has been with two good cultures in Phoenix and Miami. But also that, what do we know about Kevin Durant's history? Not just about, every team that he's been on, Thunder, Warriors, Nets, there's been some sort of drama. And it usually centers around him. Oklahoma City. The drama between KD and Russ. Now, let's not act like Russ is an angel here. He deserves blame. Y'all know I've never been a Russell Westbrook fan. I hated the trade. Go back and look. I hated the trade of the Lakers getting Russell Westbrook from the Washington Wizards. I said it's going to wreck their chances of winning a title this year, and they didn't even make the play-in tournament. But KD had some fault there too. A lot of KD defenders talk about in 2016, his last ended up being his final series playing for the Oklahoma City Thunder. KD, Russell Westbrook, up 3-1 on the 73-9 Warriors. And then, of course, they infamously blow the 3-1 lead. Game 6 was the ultimate, oh my goodness, they're really going to blow this when Klay Thompson, the original Game 6 Klay game, scored 41 and hit a playoff record 11 threes. And Steph Curry scored 30 in that game. Andre Iguodala was great. Draymond. So, and then they get to Game 7. KD barely shoots the ball until the fourth quarter, and it cost Oklahoma City the game. And a lot of people blame Russ for that 3-1 comeback, and he deserves blame, no question about it. But my response has always been to those that think, well, Russell Westbrook held Kevin Durant back. To a certain degree, that is true. But was Russ the problem when they went up 3-1? That has always been the question I haven't quite gotten the answer to from those who are constant defenders of Kevin Durant. Go check Kevin Durant's numbers from Games 5, especially Game 6 and 7. I think Game 6, he shot like 12 for 31. He's terrible. In the fourth quarter, he was turning the ball over, taking bad shots. That was one of the few moments where I'm like, oh, this moment looks a little too big for KD right now. Remember, at that point, he had yet to win a championship. Now, Russell didn't play well either, but that goes hand in hand. Those are the two at the time. At the time, Russell was a superstar. But at the time, those two superstar players, they both deserve blame. But let's not put it all on Westbrook. He won the issue when they were up 3-1. As a matter of fact, I watched that Western Conference Finals, as you did. I can make an argument, not that Russell was the better player, but that he had played better in the first 4 games than KD did. Check that Game 1 in Oracle Arena and how well Russell Westbrook played in the second half of that game. And KD was terrible in that Game 1. So, drama. KD is part of it. In Golden State, There's never drama in Golden State, except when KD was there. Because it's a fighting of leverage. That's why I think KD would be a great fit coming back to Golden State, because the Warriors have all the leverage, okay? Like, KD has no leverage in this situation because, of course, they won a second title without him. But at that point, it was, okay, Cleveland just won the title, came back from down 3-1. LeBron's not going anywhere. Neither is Kyrie, Kevin Love, and the rest of the role players they had. And Ty Lue was an ascending young head coach. And so the question at that time was, can Golden State beat a healthy Cleveland without a guy like Kevin Durant? Can they? Because, of course, the Warriors' first title come against a Cavs team that had LeBron James, Matthew Dellavedova, and Timofey Mozgov. Okay, so but then when Kevin Love and Kyrie come back healthy, they win the championship. So for those 3 years of the Warriors and Kevin Durant, it was, well, did the Warriors need KD more, or does KD need the Warriors more? At that point, I mean, I thought it was KD needed the Warriors more because he had yet to win a title without Golden State. They had at least won one in 2015, but it wasn't obvious. And because of that, going into Kevin Durant's final season, the infamous, how could we ever forget, November the 12th of 2018 at what used to be called the Staples Center, and darn it, I'm still calling it the Staples Center, Crypto.com Arena. Oh, man. But anyways, Golden State, LA Clippers, Staples Center. Lou Williams with the game tied, 10 seconds left, missed a shot. Draymond Green grabs the rebound. KD's like, okay, give me the ball. Give me the ball. All right, let me go make the last shot. Draymond ignores KD, dribbles to the other side of the court, and turns the ball over. And the Warriors don't even get up a shot, and it goes to overtime. And there's a beef between KD and Draymond. They're going back and forth. Andre Iguodala's having to separate him. Klay Thompson's having to separate him. Even Boogie Cousins, of all people, is trying to separate him. Who thought Boogie would be the peacemaker in this situation? The Warriors go on to lose the game, and then all hell breaks loose in the locker room. Draymond told Kevin Durant, according to multiple reports, he used the B word multiple times at KD, including, quote, "We don't need you. We won without you. Leave." And for the rest of the season, it was always KD and the Warriors, or the Warriors and KD. There was a separation. Drama, drama, drama. KD's at the center of it. Even when Golden State sucked in 2020, even when they didn't make the playoffs in 2021, it wasn't drama. Was there a sense of, can we get back to the mountaintop? Sure, but that's not drama. That's just uncertainty. Kevin Durant goes to Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving. Right off the bat. Both of them are on a podcast. Kyrie, quote, "We don't need a head coach." KD, of course, co-signs that thought. Well, they fired Kenny Atkinson, who I've always been a fan of. He's actually now an assistant coach with my Warriors. And they hire Steve Nash. Love Steve Nash as a point guard, not as a head coach, not as somebody who had never been a head coach in his life at any level. Okay? KD and Kyrie co-signed that. Then, playing on a Nets team that is very much a title contender with Kevin and Kyrie in a phenomenal group of role players. I mean, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Taurean Prince, Spencer Dinwiddie before he got injured that season. That team was a problem, man. They said, no, we're going to mortgage all of it for James Harden. Drama with whether or not the Nets should get Harden because, of course, he's quitting his way out of Houston, getting fat, playing and not being in shape. They lose, and then they come back next season. Kyrie doesn't get the vaccine. Well, it was Kevin Durant's decision, after all, to play with Kyrie, who we knew was a little kooky at best. And then at the end of last season, the playoffs, KD's awful. And now, more drama. He wants out. Despite the fact that he has 4 years left on his deal. So, Goran Dragic has a point here, folks. He's got a point. I mean, to say that it is just disingenuous to say that there's not drama everywhere KD goes. Is he wrong? Now, is it all Kevin Durant's fault? No, not always. I just mentioned, like in Oklahoma City, Westbrook bore a lot of responsibility. And we know everywhere Russell Westbrook goes, the team automatically gets worse. We know this. Golden State, best culture in the league. Wasn't a bad culture when KD was there. It was just kind of tumultuous. Brooklyn, it was a mess because they were asking KD to build a culture. And KD, as I've said numerous times on the show, is not the guy to build a culture. That's why he chose Phoenix, reportedly. He chose Miami, reportedly. Two set cultures as two possible destinations. That's why he would reportedly like to come back to Golden State. John Rivera in the comments, he says, Bulls with the flex emoji. Yeah, I'm assuming he's talking about the Bulls acquiring Goran Dragic. It's an excellent move. Again, you get good veteran leadership. He's still, obviously he's lost athleticism, but Goran Dragic was never a guy reliant on athleticism. So I think it's a good fit for the Chicago Bulls, especially being kind of a maybe even a mentor figure for Lonzo Ball, who I thought was playing really well before he went down for the season, I think in either January or early February, and kind of the Bulls season kind of tanked from there. It really just went downhill. But yeah, no, I think it's a good pickup for the Chicago Bulls. But I just have a hard time believing. It's kind of like what I said about Urban Meyer. And KD is not a guy that I would consider toxic. Kyrie Irving's toxic. Urban Meyer is toxic. Like, it's not where Kevin Durant walks through him and everybody's like, oh, it's not like that. Where you're just like, oh boy, this guy. But he's a lot to handle. He is. Like, there's even KD's staunchest supporters would have to admit that. And I'm a KD fan. I love KD. I've loved him since he was in Oklahoma City. I wish I had a live reaction from July 4th of 2016 when I turned on my television and see that breaking news, KD's signing with the Warriors. I was beside myself. I was like, oh my goodness, we got Kevin Durant. We're going to win the next 10 championships, right? Love this guy. And by the way, great dude. Has always, teammates always talk about it. He's a good teammate. He loves basketball. I mean, he is, when we talk about gym rat, he is the definition. He is in the gym working on his game all the time. Matter of fact, people made jokes saying like he's in the gym too much because his slender frame, like he needs to maybe get in the weight room a little bit, but hasn't hurt KD too much. He's been pretty successful without all that. But, and he's a great basketball player. Good dude, good teammate. But he's a lot to handle. And I have a hard time believing that everywhere he's been, there's been drama, and it doesn't have something to do with him. As a matter of fact, in almost every instance, it has something to do with him. That's all I'm saying. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, we'll see where he ends up. I mean, I think that now there's a possibility they're saying that he could stay in Brooklyn because the Nets can't find anybody. Like I've said, I think that actually helps the Warriors' chances to where Golden State wouldn't have to give up that much to get him. And by the way, something else about Golden State too that is absolutely worth mentioning. They can't trade Andrew Wiggins without the Nets trading Ben Simmons, whether that's to Golden State or whether that's elsewhere, because of some really, in my opinion, kind of stupid rule in the CBA. You can't have two players on the same team who are currently on a contract, a max contract signed after their rookie contract. In this case, that would be Ben Simmons and Andrew Wiggins. So it's a real weird rule. I don't really get it, but that's the rule. So Ben Simmons and Andrew Wiggins would not be able to be teammates. So if the Warriors were to make a deal for Kevin Durant, either Wiggins would not have to be involved because the rules, it won't allow it, or the Nets would have to trade Ben Simmons either to Golden State, please Jesus help that never to happen, or elsewhere. So it'd have to be a package including like James Wiseman or Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, guys like that. Maybe a Jordan Poole and obviously some draft picks. But as I said in the show, and I recruited Kevin Durant to the show yesterday, I'm trying to do my part, as a member of Dub Nation. However, I've said numerous times in the last, what has it been, 3 weeks now since Katie asked out? I don't want to, give up every single asset we have, and just have it be Steph, Clay, Draymond, KD, and, just a bunch of nameless role players. Like I do want to have at least some structure given the guys that the Warriors have been able to develop, as well as Andrew Wiggins, who they brought in from a trade 2.5 years ago, of course. So that's the thing. But regardless, though, KD, no KD, Dubs in 23. 5th championship in 9 years. It's coming. All right, moving on now to the NFL. We'll go back to the NBA to talk about Kyrie Irving a little bit. Appreciate everybody stopping by on this Friday evening. Sean Payton, one of the brilliant offensive minds in the National Football League in the 21st century. We know that he, along with Drew Brees, joined the New Orleans Saints, I think in the 2006 season, just at almost simultaneously as the terrible Hurricane Katrina happened and just decimated and devastated that city. And obviously, those two, with their efforts in terms of their philanthropy, in terms of helping rebuild the city and helping to rebuild the city's morale and turning the Aints into the New Orleans Saints, the 2009 Super Bowl champions. Within a span of 5 years. The Saints sucked for pretty much their entire existence. I think until Brees and Peyton arrived in 2006, the Saints had won like one playoff game. It was something crazy. I think they'd only won a single playoff game in their history. They were terrible. I mean, the fans wore trash bags on their heads. You see them do that in Cleveland sometimes, or with, bad franchises like the Jets, the Jaguars. They were doing that in New Orleans not too long ago. Now we think of them as a very well-run franchise, and they are. The Benson family's done a great job, and Sean Payton was great there, and guys like that. But Sean Payton, of course, this offseason, in a surprise to a lot of people, including myself, left the Saints after 16 years being the head coach there. And he himself said in the press conference, coaching is probably in my future. And so that kind of gave it away, like, okay, he's coming back to coach. He's going to coach them. He's only, 58 years old? So Belichick's in his mid-70s, so is Pete Carroll. So Sean Payton's kind of in the prime of his coaching career, if you think about it. He's got the experience, and he's got a long coaching career ahead of him. And so the question at this point is, where does he go? And according to the Miami Herald, I want to give them credit for this here, a source close to the former Saints coach says that the Cowboys, Chargers, and Dolphins are among the destinations that could possibly entice Sean Payton, although he would never lobby for a coaching job that's already occupied, per the report, which obviously all three are currently occupied at the moment. Dallas and Mike McCarthy, Mike McDaniel in Miami, and I'm Brandon Staley. I was forgetting his name. Brandon Staley, the head coach of the Chargers, which it's interesting that all three coaches have not been there that long. Mike McCarthy is going into year 3 in Dallas. Mike McDaniel is going into his first year as an NFL coach ever with the Miami Dolphins, and Brandon Staley's going into year 2 with the Chargers. Now, of course, for any of these organizations to have a head coach opening, they'd have to fire their head coach. Now, the most likely, I think, is Dallas. We know that Jerry Jones has not been satisfied with Mike McCarthy. We know that there has been, Jason Garrett had all kinds of blunders in his decade in Dallas as the head coach, and Jerry Jones rarely criticized him. That's in part because he's his adopted son. He loves Jason Garrett. He's just as much of a child to him as Jerry Jr., Charlotte Jones, and Stephen Jones are. Just add Jason to that group, Jason Jones. Like that's how Jerry felt about him. Not the same case with Mike McCarthy. He's kind of an outsider coming in. We know about the crazy story of how Mike McCarthy got hired. How he infamously, I won't play the bite today, but he lied to the franchise that he watched every Cowboys game and he studied the analytics and he can, change this franchise. And safe to say he's not changed much except the fact that he took off a Green Bay Packers hat and put on a Dallas Cowboys hat. That's about all that's changed. But with the Chargers, we know that there has been some discontent, not a ton. He is a young coach, but with some of the decision-making by Brandon Staley in a lot of the games last year. You think about all those 4th down attempts against Kansas City. You think about, relying almost too much on the analytics, the unfathomable timeout call at the end of overtime of the last game of the NFL regular season against the Las Vegas Raiders, in which if the Raiders and Chargers tie, they both make the playoffs. And there's a minute left. The game is tied. Raiders players and the coach admitted after the game, yeah, we were trying to run the clock out so that regardless, if there's a tie, no harm, no foul, we're still in the playoffs. And that would have been the same case for the Chargers if Brandon Staley didn't, for whatever reason, use a timeout. And thus the Raiders like, okay, let's try and win the game. They get into field goal range and they win it. And so the bottom line, the question is that everybody wants to know, is Sean Payton going to Dallas? We know that that has been like the rumor for almost 20 years, ever since he was on the great Bill Parcells coaching staff in Dallas. And we know Sean Payton is definitely a chip off the old block of Bill Parcells. He resembles him in a lot of ways. He's a no BS type of guy, but he's an excellent team motivator, a brilliant game planner. We saw that numerous times in New Orleans. And we know at this point, he's got a good relationship with Jerry Jones, with Steve. He's really close with Stephen Jones. Does he want to come to Dallas? Well, the answer to that, I believe, is unequivocally yes. He absolutely wants to come to Dallas. Here's the question. Not whether Mike McCarthy will be fired after the season. I think if the Cowboys do what they did a year ago, they win the division and go out immediately in the playoffs, which is what I believe is exactly what's going to happen in 2022, Mike McCarthy will no longer be the head coach of the Cowboys. That's my guess. Would Sean Payton be interested? Of course. Here's the question. Did Jerry Jones sell the team? I don't think he did, but I'm just trying to make sure. He didn't sell the team, right? What do we know about Jerry Jones ever since he infamously fired Jimmy Johnson after the Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl in January of 1994? What do we know? Well, we know that he's hired all but one head coach, numerous head coaches, all but one that he can control. Chan Gailey, Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy, way before that, Barry Switzer. He could kind of manipulate those guys a little bit. And if he couldn't manipulate them like a Barry Switzer, who actually was Jerry Jones' coach in college at Arkansas, he knows Barry Switzer isn't going to get in Jerry's business. He's not going to challenge Jerry. Bill Parcells, he doesn't care. He's going to challenge anybody. And Bill Parcells does not want the owner to interfere with whatever he wants to do in terms of talent evaluation and coaching. Well, Jerry did in 2006. He said, hey, T.O.'s available from the Philadelphia Eagles. And Bill Parcells like, no, I don't want him. That's what all the reports said. Bill Parcells, I don't want T.O. And he never called Terrell Owens by his name. He called him just the player. And everybody knew who the player was. It was the elephant in the room. And Jerry ignored Bill Parcells. So what did Bill Parcells do after the 2006 season? He retired from coaching. And so Jerry subsequently hired another coach who can control, Wade Phillips. So I have a hard time believing that a guy who owns the Dallas Cowboys franchise, appointed himself the general manager, of course, the team president as well, is going to all of a sudden relinquish all decision-making powers in terms of talent evaluation, never second-guess a single coaching decision in hiring Sean Payton. I have a hard time believing that. The second thing is, let's say for the sake of argument, the Cowboys fire Mike McCarthy, which of the three teams that Coach Sean Payton is interested in, Cowboys, Chargers, and Dolphins, reportedly, that is those are the three teams. Dallas is, okay, John Rivera wants me to play the soundbite of Mike McCarthy. Okay, let me find it down here. Here you go, John.
You said you analyzed every play or watched every play of the entire 2019 season. What is it that you learned from that experience that you think will benefit you most here?
Well, I mean, I need to confess. I mean, I told Jerry I watched every play of the 2019 season, but I wanted the job. So I haven't watched every play of the season, but it was just, I mean, you do what you got to do, right?
I mean, he truly is the perfect coach for Jerry Jones, really. But what is attractable? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, Dallas wins the division, gets bounced in the first round. Mike McCarthy gets fired. And let's say, because I don't think that the Dolphins will, the only way Mike McDaniel, who I wasn't a huge fan of the hiring in large part because I thought they should never fire Brian Flores, said that the day after. You could check it out in the show from January 10th. Point is, Mike McDaniel would have to be absolutely terrible his first year to even have a chance of getting fired. Like the Dolphins, and I don't have high expectations for the Dolphins like everybody else does because I don't trust the quarterback. Even given all the skill position players that they've acquired this offseason and that they already had within the franchise, within the team. They'd have to win like 3 games for Mike McDaniel to lose his job. So that's not going to happen. But I do think that there is a chance. What do we know about the Chargers? Yeah, my good buddy Ryan Flowers always says the Chargers are gonna do Chargers things. The Chargers are gonna be the Chargers. Well, last year they had a stacked roster. They had started the season, I think, like 4-1, 5-1, were humming along, and they struggled, and they continued to struggle, and they blew a chance to go to the playoffs. They had some bad losses to Houston, and again, the inexplicable coaching decision against Vegas. I mean, some really tight losses, in some cases, blowout losses to not very good teams. And that was it for the Chargers last year. Let's say LA makes the play. I'm sorry. Yeah, who upgraded their roster. They added Khalil Mack. They added J.C. Jackson. So their defense got a lot better. Justin Herbert's in year 3 and has just been incredible since he came in 2020. Let's just say the Chargers do Chargers things and they go 8-9 and they lose some really close games that they probably could have won had it been for better decision-making, better coaching. If the Chargers know that there's a chance Sean McVay may be interested, do they fire Brandon Staley? It's only 2 years, but do they fire him if it's a repeat of last year? Let's say that does happen. Okay, Cowboys job open, Chargers job open. There's no question, unless something major happens, those would be the 2 most attractable jobs on the market in terms of teams that are good teams. Teams that, if you add a few pieces here and there, maybe could be a contender. I think the Chargers have a contending roster. I just don't know if they have the coach that can elevate them to that. Chargers, Cowboys job available. Sean Payton's heart may be in Dallas in terms of the relationships he has there, in terms of the fact that he did coach with Bill Parcells there. But the Chargers roster is better than the Cowboys. I don't think that's even arguable. The quarterbacks, to me, Dak, and I love Dak. Dak, Herbert, I think are on equal footing. There's a chance I think Herbert maybe passes Dak this season because y'all know I loved Herbert coming out of Oregon in 2020. The receiving core is way better than Dallas. I mean, both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are better than CeeDee Lamb. And Josh Palmer, my man out of Tennessee, is better than guys like Jalen Tolbert and James Washington. Okay, offensive line is better. The left tackle they got in LA is incredible. He's well, I'm forgetting his name now. He's not coming to my mind. He's phenomenal. He's better than Tyron Smith at this point in his career. We know the left tackle is the most important part of an offensive line. Defense is better. Micah Parsons is phenomenal in Dallas, but I would rather have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack together over just one Micah Parsons. J.C. Jackson is absolutely a better corner than Trayvon Diggs. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from Cowboys fans for that, but it's true. Watch this tape in New England. Watch Trayvon's for Dallas. And tell me who the better corner is. Who the better ball hawk is, that's a different question. Who the better overall corner is. Then you look at the Cowboys roster, if Sean Payton were to possibly go there. Elite quarterback, okay, that's a draw. Elite defensive player, that's good. What else? Good players, DeMarcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs, and CeeDee Lamb. Good players. Zach Martin that's still on the edge of elite, although his career's taken a downturn as age catches up to him, as injuries catch up to him. Good players. The Chargers have like 5 elite players. So, and the Chargers would give Sean Payton more control of the franchise. I get as hard it would be in Dallas. I get that. And I hope I'm wrong as a Dak fan, but I have a hard time believing that it would be, given the two scenarios, rosters don't change, the construct of the organization, I can't see changing at all for either team, that he wouldn't choose the Chargers. Hard time believing that. But we'll see what happens. I mean, what I do know, Sean Payton's going to coach next year. I mean, this year, John was actually, I did a live with John Rivera. Shout out to him, Fan Perspective Podcast. Go check their stuff out. I think they just recorded an episode last night. They'll get that out for the people to listen to. But I did a live last night with John Rivera, and he made a good point. He said he thinks a big reason that I keep wanting to say Sean McVay, but that Sean Payton is taking the year off is that out of respect for the Benson family. Gail Benson, who is the primary owner of the Saints and of also the New Orleans Pelicans of the NBA, good job. They've done a good job in the way they've ran the Saints. And I forgot the general manager's name. He's not coming to my mind at this particular moment in time, but he's done a good job in terms of, finding really good players in the draft in the second round, third round. They've hit on almost all of their first round picks. You look at the Saints. I kind of like who the Saints are this year. Not a contender, but I'm starting to think the Saints may actually get in the postseason this year if Jameis Winston stays healthy. But so just out of respect for the Saints franchise, he's not coaching this year. And just to get a year off. 16 straight years of coaching the National Football League. It's a lot. You're away from your family a lot. You probably don't get a whole lot of sleep. You're constantly game planning. And when you're not game planning, you're worrying about, evaluating guys for the draft. Obviously, your scouts do a lot of that work, but it's not like being a college football coach. But it's a hard job. There's no question about it. Sometimes you maybe got to sleep in your office. It's no joke. So take a year off. Spend time with the family. There's a possibility he could go into broadcasting this year. There's been a lot of networks that reach out to him. I think he'd be a very good broadcaster, but I think he's a good coach next season. And if, for the sake of argument, all three jobs open, I would be stunned if he doesn't pick the Chargers. And I'd be even more stunned if he picked the Cowboys. That's just my thoughts. His heart's in Dallas, but where he had the best chance to succeed, LA Chargers is where it's at. All right, moving on to Kyrie Irving. Maybe you've heard of him. The one team that has been even remotely interested in acquiring Kyrie from the Brooklyn Nets is the Los Angeles Lakers. And reportedly a deal, if we're talking about just a traditional two-team deal between the Nets and the Lakers, obviously the Nets would give up Kyrie Irving. The Lakers would give up, I would say almost shove out the back door, Russell Westbrook. And they would only give up one first-round pick from 2027. The Nets want 2 first-round picks. So, by the way, I don't blame the Nets. If you're giving me Russell Westbrook and I'm giving away a player troubled, but as talented as Kyrie Irving, I need 2 first-round picks. I'm not asking for 3, but could you give me 2? The Lakers won't do it. And I don't blame the Lakers for a second. Before I get into that, into that, let me just say that there has been a report from LJ Ellis of Spurs Talk, who reported, according to multiple sources, the trade that is the closest to happening involves Kyrie Irving being sent to the Los Angeles Lakers and Russell Westbrook being routed to the Spurs. To facilitate that trade, sources tell me the Spurs want an unprotected first-round pick from the Lakers. So that could be a win-win because the Spurs have a ton of cap space. Just fill it up with Russell Westbrook. The Spurs aren't going anywhere this year. Spurs got a loyal fan base. They're going to show up to the AT&T Center. This could be Popovich's last year. So Russell Westbrook will help sell tickets. He's exciting, okay? He's an exciting player. He's not even close to elite at this stage of his career, but he's no question exciting. For the Nets, they get Kyrie off their hands. They probably trade KD, and they move on into a full rebuild. For the Lakers, they only have to give up a first-round pick. 1, not 2. So you could be able to sort of compromise in that regard. So that could work. I could see that. It'd be a little weird for the Spurs, but outside of that, I could see it totally working for the Nets and the Lakers. So I think that's a possibility. But in terms of should the Lakers want to trade for Kyrie? No. No, they should not want to trade for Kyrie Irving because you know what this would be? This would be yet another situation just like the Brooklyn Nets tried. What have we seen? LeBron James, who I believe is the third best basketball player on the planet, only behind Steph Curry and Giannis Antetokounmpo, still elite, still, regardless of what the haters and the naysayers may say, still can lead a team to a championship at this stage of his career, even in year 20, which is remarkable. But he is almost starting to sound a little bit like Kevin Durant in this regard. Remember the good old days? Cleveland. Me and Kyrie won a championship together, went to 3 straight finals together. Man, we were good. We were really good. Nobody in the East could even compete with us. I mean, in a span of 2 years between 2016 and 2017, we lost a combined 3 playoff games in the Eastern Conference. Not even enough to lose a full series. Nobody could beat us in the East. And if it had not been for Golden State at getting that Kevin Durant guy, hey, maybe we could have formed our own little mini dynasty. Remember the good old days? Let's bring him back. Let's bring Kyrie to LA. Let's team up again. Old buddy, old pal. Let's do it. Just making the same mistake KD did. KD and Kyrie were the best of friends. Remember that video from the All-Star game in 2019 in Charlotte? Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, KD still in Golden State, Kyrie still in Boston. They're having some sort of conversation together, and Kyrie is definitely leading the conversation, and KD's laughing his butt off, and they're going back and forth. They're yucking it up. Yeah, just like good buddies do. We just have to have a good time with our buddies. But then they went a step further and said, no, we want to play together. Yeah, how'd that work out? 1 playoff series win in 3 years. Folks, did Kyrie and LeBron fit together beautifully in Cleveland? Oh, did they? Did they? My team was the victim of LeBron and Kyrie in 2016. Don't remind me. It was miserable. Didn't sleep that night. But LeBron James is in year 20. He's still great. I just said he's the 3rd best player on the planet. But is he still prime LeBron? If he is, he's at the end of it. Is he Cleveland LeBron? No, he's not. Cleveland LeBron could take a garbage basketball team in 2018 and get to the NBA Finals. LeBron can't do that anymore. There's nothing wrong with that. He's in year 20. I'm not criticizing him for it. But what we have to be honest with ourselves about is that Kyrie has gotten even weirder, even kookier, and even harder to play with. The Lakers are a franchise that the number one thing they need. It's not talent. They got LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Teams would kill for that. But what the Lakers want, what I think Jeannie Buss voiced in that tweet that I talked about last week, what they need is stability. You just take a deep breath. The Lakers want to know where they're at. We know about the Lakers. It's like the Yankees. It's like the Cowboys. Big brands. It's all about the ring. If we don't win a championship, the season is a failure. That's the mindset in Los Angeles with the purple and gold. That's how it's always been. So wanting to know where we're at and if we can still compete for titles. Right now, I don't think anybody in LA knows. I don't think LeBron knows. Jeannie Buss knows. Rob Pelinka knows. Westbrook doesn't know if he's playing next year. You saw the video from Summer League. LeBron and Westbrook went to the same game. It did not even speak to each other. So their relationship is soured. So all that chaos. And you're going to plug Kyrie Irving into that? It makes no sense. Add Kyrie Irving. I think the Lakers are a playoff team. If they stay, if they stay healthy. LeBron's going to miss games. AD is definitely going to miss some games. Kyrie's going to miss games for who knows what reason that he'll make up this time. But if they stay somewhat healthy, they're a playoff team. They're absolutely one of the 8 best teams in the Western Conference. Now, will they be in the play-in tournament, have to win in the play-in tournament again? Possibly. But they're one of the 8 best teams in the West. They get in the playoffs. However, when you talk about the dysfunction that's been going on in the Lakers franchise ever since the day, rest in peace, that Dr. Jerry Buss died in 2013, it has been chaos ever since. Even with Kobe, even with LeBron. You had the situation with Jim Buss, who did just about as bad of a job as you could do running a franchise, and so Jeannie had to fire her own brother. He was so bad. Then you have the back and forth, the beef between Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka. Jeannie Buss chooses to fire I'm sorry, she didn't choose to fire Magic. Magic said, "I'm out." There's the infamous meme of him going, "I'm not going to be here." Remember that? You had that. You have now the Westbrook stuff, which was just nothing but chaos last year. And then you follow that up with Kyrie Irving? You think that's going to work? You think that's going to put you in championship contention against the likes of Golden State, the Clippers, the Nuggets, Memphis, Phoenix? Really? You're going to put that against those 5 teams I mentioned. They would lose a series to all 5 teams. If you want to get rid of Westbrook so bad, I don't blame you. Trade him to Charlotte. Michael Jordan has voiced numerous times, I'd love to have Westbrook over here, right? It's Jordan brand. You know, Russell Westbrook is a Jordan brand athlete. Bring him over here. He'll sell some tickets. Charlotte isn't exactly, they're fun, but they're not, exactly in the top 10 in terms of attendance when you look at NBA arenas. Yeah, Russell Westbrook won't put him in the top 10, but it'll be exciting. Fans will show up. See, hey, can Russ get a triple-double, right? It says you'll have that, and he's only there for a year, making $47 million. Then he's a free agent, and we'll see what happens with Russ next year. Trade him to Charlotte for Terry Rozier. Not a great defensive player, so that hurts you there, but the Lakers have plenty of good defensive players. LeBron is still not too shabby on that end. AD, when healthy, which is rare, is a monster defensively. Got guys like Lonnie Walker who are good on that end. You're fine there. Fine. But you add Terry Rozier in, he can score. I mean, he's a threat to go for 20, 25 points a night. He's pretty efficient, good shooter, solid ball handler, can run the offense. He's not like a traditional point. He's not like a Chris Paul point guard or a Kyle Lowry point guard, but he's not, say, some call a hybrid point guard like a Steph Curry or Damian Lillard type of player. He's kind of in that middle ground between the two. I think he'd fit very well with the Lakers. Could they be in title contention? Maybe. I've kind of liked their offseason acquisitions. But if you trade for Kyrie Irving, that cancels everything. It doesn't matter what you added. It doesn't matter. Would you have the most talented big 3 in the NBA? Yes. Will it matter? Not in the slightest. You already have chaos. Yeah, Kyrie Irving to that. Boston had no chaos in 2017. They had a Kyrie Irving there, and there was drama within the first 2 years of a well-run franchise, Boston. He went to a poorly run franchise, Brooklyn, and there was drama the second he got there. We don't need a head coach. Put him on another poorly run franchise, the Lakers. Ooh. Be careful what you wish for, Laker fans. Be very careful. This is one of the few times that I've been like, Jeannie, Rob Pelinka, hang on to those picks. I mean, I know everybody says F them picks. That's the, Les Snead, the GM of the Rams. That's kind of like his thing. F them picks because he trades a lot of picks. And they're not going to be relevant whatsoever because by 2027, LeBron might even be retired. He definitely won't be in a Lakers uniform. He'll go play with Bronny. He's been very vocal about that. But at the end of the day, if you want to put yourself in championship contention, I think you still can. I really do. Trade Westbrook for a Terry Rozier type player. Or to a team that has plenty of cap space, doesn't care to pay $47 million to an aging point guard, and they'll give up one of their starting point guards. I think it works. But Westbrook for Kyrie Irving, yeah, Lakers, hang on to those picks. Hang on. Kyrie Irving, if he makes the Lakers better simply because Westbrook's out. Like, Westbrook makes teams worse. Kyrie doesn't necessarily always make teams worse, but there's a whole lot of drama there. Then again, he probably does make teams worse because basically every team he plays for, Boston and Brooklyn, post Cleveland, the team's better without him. Look at their records. The team is better without him. So, no, that would be about as bad of a fit as you could possibly have. On the basketball court, I think Kyrie Irving and LeBron James still fit great together. But in terms of the locker room, in terms of the feeling around the franchise, in terms of the constant drama that Kyrie's going to bring to the table, it is a disaster waiting to happen. But it is the Lakers after all. They could make that deal. As I mentioned, LJ Ellis, Spurs talk. He said there's a possibility of a 3-team trade between the Spurs, Nets, and Lakers. We'll see what happens. Moving on, Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time. We know that. Going into year 23. He's going into the Jordan year with the Tampa Bay, well, not year 23 at the Bucs, year 23 in the NFL, 21 with the 19, right? No, 20. Find that middle number. 20 years with the New England Patriots, now going to his third year as a member of the Tampa Bay Bucs. And he did an interview with Variety. And it was a really interesting read. Plenty of, they even asked him, Tom, you want to go into politics? Like I said, they really, they pressed him a lot of these questions. But he was talking. They were asking about, hey, what would ring number 8 mean to you? And he said, quote, that ring number 8 would be the greatest way to, or not ring number 8, winning a Super Bowl would be the greatest way to end a career. He also said, quote, could this be my last year? Absolutely. Could I change my mind? Absolutely. End quote. So we know there's obviously a chance. I have said on the show numerous times, I don't rule out Tom Brady coming back next year. There's certainly a possibility. It's not like his love of football has gone anywhere. But I think the fact that Miami, that fell through, obviously with the Brian Flores lawsuit, all the reports said that Brady was gonna go to Miami. Sean Payton, let's talk about Sean Payton again. He was going to join him in Miami. I think that's part of the reason why Sean Payton is still reportedly interested in the Dolphins. They were going to join together, and Brady was going to be a part player, part owner. He was going to buy a stake into the franchise and still play quarterback there. The Brian Flores lawsuit happened, so they backed off. So the fact that I think Miami honestly is off the table, and you add to the fact that he just got paid in excess of $370 million by Fox to be their number one TV analyst for their broadcast of the NFL, I think that changes things a little bit. He almost doubled Tony Romo's salary. Remember when Tony Romo got that big contract from CBS? And we were like, oh my God, how can you pay Romo that? Oh my goodness. Me personally, I thought he was worth every penny because Romo was a phenomenal broadcaster. And then he gave Tom Brady, who's never been a broadcaster in his life, we never really thought of him as a broadcasting type of guy, and he has a massive deal with Fox. I think that changes things a little bit. I maintain, until proven otherwise, and we won't know until January, February, or March of next year, I think this is it for Tom Brady. I think this is his final year. He's trying to go after that ring number 8. If he's anything like how I am, even number. I'm weird about odd and even numbers, folks. Maybe Tom Brady's the same way. Ring number 8, it would, I don't know if he's necessarily thinking about this, but it would quadruple his longtime contemporary Peyton Manning in Super Bowl championships. It would be double that of the guys who held the record for the most Super Bowl titles for quarterbacks, Terry Bradshaw and Joe Montana. He would double them in titles, 4, and then Brady would have 8. I think you also add to the fact that he did retire initially for 40 days. It was brief retirement, but he did do it. You add to that after the playoff loss to the Rams, he used words like satisfied and content, words that Tom Brady would have never used ever after any playoff loss. Even after Super Bowl wins, he didn't use those type of words because satisfied and content, that holds a sort of finality with it. And so, even in this case, could it be my last year? Maybe. Could I change my mind? Yeah, I absolutely could do that. I think the sort of go either way on that is unlike Tom. We see, if y'all follow him on social media, Twitter, Instagram, he's posted a lot of Brady brand stuff. Again, nothing wrong with an athlete promoting their brand, nothing. But a lot of times you see that more with athletes in the twilight of their career, in like the last year, 2 years of their career. He's doing that new comedy with Jane Fonda, 80 for Brady, Gronk's in it, Danny Amendola's in it, Julian Edelman's in it. It's gonna come out next year. He's got a lot of stuff going on, and I feel like the sort of mindset change that I've seen by Brady, I think this is it. I really genuinely do. But again, could he come back? To quote Tom, absolutely. Could he, could he retire? Do I think he's going to retire? I think yes, but we'll see. Grady Edwards, my man, I'm sure he loves Tom Brady. He's in the comments. He's a Patriots fan. He says, I know we've talked about this before, but as a Golden State fan, why would you want KD back? It just seems more trouble than it's worth, and it will hurt your team more so in the longer. Guy gets upset too often and is more injury prone than he used to be. I'm not giving up all of those young dudes for him. Well, what I would say, Grady, is to go to your last point, I would not give up all those young dudes for him. Neither would I. I've said on the show, I am not giving up Wiggins, Poole, Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody, maybe like 4 out of those 5 guys and multiple draft picks. Because as I said, I do want at least a certain amount of stability in terms of developing young players when you see how well they have developed over the last year. In the case of Jordan Poole, 3 years. So you do want to have at least depth. That's the one thing the Warriors sacrificed when they first got KD in 2016. They gave up a lot of their depth. Leandro Barbosa, Maurice Spates, Festus Ezeli, guys like that. It hurt them. But in the short term, nobody could beat them. I think the situation here is, what are you willing to give up for KD? What are the Nets asking for? If they're asking for all the guys I mentioned, all of the guys and draft picks, I can't do it. But would it drastically improve the Warriors' chances of winning, I would say, the next 3 championships? Yes, absolutely. That's why I'm recruiting him back. And add to it, Grady, as I've said before, it's the Warriors who have the leverage. KD has no leverage. And KD would have to come to terms with, and would he? We'd have to see before the trade would have to happen, hopefully. Is he good with being the number 2 behind Steph? That's the question. Grady says, who wants to go out the way they went out anyway? Seems like such a heartbreaking way to go out and so sudden. He's talking about Tom Brady, by the way. And as a fan, I hated how the news was broke too. Part of me thinks that pissed him off. I think it definitely did piss him off. The fact that the news came out that somebody within Brady's circle leaked it to Adam Schefter, and Schefter tweeted out reporting it was a Saturday. I think it was January 29th, because it was the day before the conference. It was the day before the conference championship games, January 29th, that Schefter tweeted Tom Brady's going to retire. And then we see like an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, Brady's camp. And then Brady's dad, Tom Brady Sr., says like, hey, like, it's not true. He's not retiring. And then that Tuesday, so that'd have been, I guess, February 1st, Tom Brady said, yeah, I'm retiring. And then, but I do think Grady, he sat with that like, man, that's how it ended? Like, really? Kobe Bryant got this ceremonious, right? It was the celebration. I don't think Tom wants that. I don't think he wants these sort of Kobe Bryant, Derek Jeter, David Ortiz, shout out Big Papi, going in the Hall of Fame this weekend. I don't think he wants that kind of send-off. I don't think he wants a season where it's all about him. Is Brady an attention freak? No question. There is no question about that. We've certainly seen that in Tampa. I don't have an issue with that, but it is the reality. But would he want a season where that's the number one focus? I don't think so. I don't think, because Brady is the ultimate anti-distraction guy. It's all about winning. That's why despite the fact that they clashed often, that he and Belichick worked for as long as they did, because it's all about the W. It's all about the championships. It's all about winning another Lombardi. So, but yeah, I do agree, Grady. I do think that the way it happened was unlike Tom. Tom is very calculated. He is very intentional with every decision that he makes. And so this sort of weird process that it leaks out that he's retiring, and then he says, no, I'm actually not retiring, and then he does retire a couple days after that. It wasn't, he deserved a better send-off than that. He did. This isn't like no disrespect to Brett Favre, but like Brett Favre, I'm retiring, I'm not retiring, back and forth, back and forth. Michael Jordan retired numerous times. Brady's not that type of dude. So I would have, I can't imagine being a fly on the wall of those conversations between Brady and some members of his camp when the news came out. Like, which one of you blankety blank blanks, leaked this? Who, I'm sure he was livid. I don't blame him. I would be too. Like, I go out on my terms. Especially when I've done what if I've done what Tom Brady's done, I go out on my terms. Like, somebody's not just gonna leak this to Adam Schefter and the whole world knows before I want them to know. But I do think this is it for him. We'll see, though. Tampa Bay is very much a player in the NFC. I would probably argue that the second play. I mean, the NFC, folks, is not that deep. It's not. I've said that since right after the Rams won the Super Bowl. That's why I thought I'd do it now. Am I going to come out and say, no, the Rams are the next dynasty in the NFL? No, I crushed the Chiefs for saying that they were going to be that after they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And since then, they haven't won since. They have a chance to win, but they're not a dynasty. I have said, though, I think the Rams have a phenomenal chance, as great of a chance as anyone in this sort of back-to-back championship drought in the NFL. I think the Rams had the best chance of any of the teams that have won a Super Bowl to repeat, because in order to get to the Super Bowl, what's your competition? Well, the NFC in terms of contenders isn't horribly deep. Okay. San Francisco, the question about San Francisco is two things. Is Deebo Samuel back? And I think he will be. That's just my personal opinion. I don't have any sourcing on that. And will Trey Lance pan out? I've told y'all I'm not selling my Trey Lance stock. I'm going to defend that kid until proven otherwise. Let's just say Trey Lance pans out. Okay, there's a contender. The Bucs are a contender with Brady coming back and some of the additions that they made. Russell Gage, I thought, was one of the better moves of the offseason, getting him and replacing the head case that was Antonio Brown. Outside of that, the Packers have literally no elite wide receivers on their roster. Minnesota does, and I think they'll win the division. But do I think Minnesota can beat the Rams in a playoff game? I don't know. Do I trust Kirk Cousins more than I trust Matthew Stafford? I don't. But we'll see. I mean, that's what I love about the NFL. It's what me and Jonathan were talking about last night. Like, what's great about the NFL is for the most part, you know who the great teams are. We know the Rams are going to be good this year. We know that the Bills are going to be good this year. We for the most part, know. And then kind of the teams we're pretty sure going to be good. They may suck this year, or they may miss the playoffs. Never forget, the Carolina Panthers went 15-1. Cam Newton won the MVP, and they went to the Super Bowl and lost the Broncos. And the next season, they went 6-10. And we were all sure, Carolina, watch out for them next year. And that's what's great about the NFL. You never know. Grady says, yeah, as a fan, I was like, really? This is how it's going to end for him? I'd rather go 6-10, him be washed, and we knew it was then for him to lose to look like that. LOL, that was terrible. Yeah, and I don't think Tom's the guy who wants to play like Peyton Manning, for example, to play till the wheels fall off, to play until you literally have not in terms of have nothing left in terms of satisfaction, but have nothing left in terms of like, okay, I literally can't play in this league anymore. I'm not good enough to play in the NFL anymore. I don't think Tom wants that. I think he wants to go out still being a great player, a great quarterback playing at a high level. I think that's what he wants to do. And to do it as long as he has done it is just simply remarkable. But we'll see. I think this is it, but we'll see. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Be sure to catch, there will be no Carving Up Lives next week. I'm taking a week off of the show. Mid-July, there's some fun stuff coming up next week. You got the MLB All-Star Game, you got the ESPYs, so some fun stuff going on in sports next week. Unless like a Kevin Durant trade, something major happens, no shows next week, but I'll be back the week after that. Let's see, what day will that be? That would be July 25th. I'll be back July the 25th right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. Be sure to follow me on my social media platforms. I will, no questions, stay active there. On Instagram at Carving Up Podcast, Twitter at Carving Up Pod, Facebook. I'm not that active on Facebook outside of doing the show, but if you want to friend me on there, feel free. Search Bryson Carver, and the Carving Up logo is right there. So, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that big red subscribe button and help the channel grow exponentially, along with liking, sharing, and commenting on these shows. Have a great weekend, everybody. I will see y'all in 10 days. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. See y'all. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.